Hello and welcome to this week's Vodcast for Thursday the 3rd of February with me, Kevin Ross, for an easy listening digest of the week's news from the Melton Times. Coming up, schools consider move to academy status, the council fails in a bid to retain a court in Melton, and Sainsbury's Stores gets the thumbs up. And finally in sport, Midlands joy for Girls Rugby Football Union. All this and more coming up next in the Melton Times Vodcast for Thursday 3rd of February 2011. Head teachers in Melton have held a preliminary meeting with County Hall's Director of Education to discuss the significant new options for schools to transform themselves into academies. Gareth Williams explained the proposals, which would enable schools to break free from Leicestershire County Council control and have far greater command of how they spend budgets and what they teach pupils to staff from secondary, pupil and special schools in the borough. Chris Robinson, head of John Fernley College, Melton, said he still had an open mind on this issue, but he said schools could become academies as early as September if they decide to make the transition. Governors will decide whether schools should move to academy status, and if they want to go ahead they will have to register their intention with the Department for Education to signal a period of intensive consultation with parents, staff and other interested parties before a final decision is made. Hopes of keeping a magistrates' court in Melton appear to have been dashed after the Ministry of Justice declined an offer from the Borough Council to house hearings at its new Burton Street headquarters. The town courthouse was one of 93 magistrates' courts and 49 county courts in the UK earmarked for closure by the government last year as part of cost-cutting proposals. Those attending court from Melton now face a 40-mile round trip if Loughborough is to be adopted as the courthouse for the borough. Civil cases will go to Leicester. A date has not been set for the closure of Melton Magistrates Court. Sainsbury's plans for a superstore in Melton have been given a thumbs up by councillors. At a special meeting at the Melton Council's Development Committee on Thursday, January the 27th, councillors voted by 8 votes to 1 to back a planning officer's recommendation to approve the application, subject to conditions. One councillor abstained. Councillors were strongly against 24-hour opening, and one of the key planning conditions is for the details of the store's proposed opening hours to come back to committee for approval. The committee's decision to approve the store, to be built on the site of the council's fire-damaged former offices and the adjoining Longstair car park in Nottingham Road, will now be referred to the Secretary of State, who will have the final say. A number of speakers, both in favour and against the state proposals, spoke at the meeting. As reported in last week's Melton Times, Brooksby Melton College and Cedar House Investments, behind a rival bid to build an intended Waitrose store on part of the college's Asby Road campus, are taking their application directly to the Secretary of State. Do you agree with the committee's decision? Email your views to editor@meltontimes.co.uk.
Have you ever heard the Melton Times?
Have you heard the Melton Times?
The Melton Times podcast. It's news in a flash.
An indoor skate and BMX park is proposed to be created on Melton Airfield. Southern couple Mark and Rebecca Brown want to turn an empty warehouse at the Dolby Road site into Terminal 1, a facility accommodating BMX riders, inline skaters, skateboarders and micro-scooters. They also have plans to incorporate a cafe where youngsters and adults can enjoy some fresh home-cooked food while looking out across the park, and a shop which they hope to sublet to the bike shop or parts clothing retailer. They say the nearest indoor skate park to Melton is in the currently Adrenaline Alley at Corby, North Hants. The application will be decided by Melton Council. If approved, it's hoped the park will be opened by May, creating full and part-time jobs. A Melton woman who has severe brain damage has been given sensory equipment to help with her seizures, thanks to the annual Melton Firefighters Trumpton charity collection. Katie Brain of the Crescent, who was diagnosed with brain damage at 6 months of age and as a result has the mental age of 3-year-old, was presented with the laser sky projector and colour wheel spotlight by firefighters on Tuesday after her father, Bill Brain, wrote to Trumpton to ask for help. Trumpton are appealing for people to write in if they need funding for charity annual collections. Please address your letter to the Trumpton Committee, Melton Fire Station, Nottingham Road. Residents of the town centre flats in Melton have reacted angrily to moves to charge them to park outside their homes and to have stairwells cleaned. Council tenants in Chapel Street, Norman Way, New Street, Bentley Street and at Granbury House, St John's Court and Beckmill Court will have to pay £30 a year for parking permits. Visitors will also have to pay £30 permits if they want to park in one of the 130 effective spaces. The The decisions were approved at the Council's Community and Social Affairs Committee, where members also agreed to charge flat tenants £78 a year to have their communal stairwell cleaned 4 times annually. Melton Council say the parking and cleaning schemes will come into operation April this year, but dozens of residents have signed petitions opposing them. 2 burglaries in the space of 8 months at Holwell Scout campsite have sparked concerns over its future. District Scout leaders say they are determined to keep the site running but need the help of volunteers. Burglars broke into the Scout facility last June and stole about £4,000 worth of equipment, including 2 marquees, barbecue tools and strimmers. And more recently the site was burgled overnight between January the 4th and 5th, with stolen items including a water tank and shower fittings. In recent weeks, Mr Fraser has called for a crime prevention officer to assess the security options, but was told that the site was too isolated for alarms to be of any use, short of someone living on the premises. Volunteers are needed to help with the general campsite maintenance, open and close the site to visitors when it's rented out at weekends, and to put together a fundraising team to boost the Scouts' budget. To register interest, call Derek on Melton 563 440. And anyone who witnessed the burglary or has any information about the incident should call PC Paul Anderson on Leicester 222 2222. And in a short free time this week, pirouette between fantasy and reality. Natalie Portman collected the coveted Golden Globe Award as Best Actress for her tour de force portrayal of an emotionally fragile ballerina in Black Swan, Certificate 15. And it was much deserved as she spent 10 months of grueling physical preparation before the cameras started rolling. For more information, call the Regal on at Melton at 562251 or go to their website regal-melton.co.uk. And finally in sport, rugby starlets Juliet Lee and Ellie Batten have their sights set on international honours after earning selection for their region. The Longfield High School girls were thrilled by their call-up to the Midlands Under-15 girls squad for the 2010-11 season. The girls play for HMH Vixens, a cluster team made up of players from Market Harbour, Melton and Hinckley, and were invited to trial against the region's best last month. And finally, Vale Beaver runner Josh Norman was left to rue on what might have been as he missed on the Midlands cross-country title once again. Norman from Barkston Vale raced at the Midlands Championship on Saturday in the under-20s race at Leamington on a tough undulating course. And despite a valiant effort, the 19-year-old finished in 3rd place for the 2nd year running, just missing out on 2nd in the final 50-metre run of 8-kilometre course. Well, that's about it. Of course, the full stories can be found in the Melton Times. So until next week, when we'll have yet more news and sport, have a very safe week. That was your JK Media production for the Melton Times.